Welcome, friends of Powerhouse Bakery. My name is Suzanne Parker, and I'm so excited to have you here. All my favorite divas and dudes, we are ready to show you some fun nutrition and cooking today. We are going to talk about breakfast. One of the most important things we can do for our health is making sure that breakfast is part of our day. And what I'm going to show you today is a wonderful recipe. You know, thinking outside the box is not a bad idea when we start thinking about how to make a healthy breakfast. And what I have today is definitely going to be thinking outside the box. This is a beautiful recipe that is going to be a traditional French toast, gone a little more unique outside the box. I am going to serve you up two different recipes. One will be a vegan pumpkin French toast, and this one is our classic French toast. And of course, adding a little bit of berries and some beautiful organic maple syrup is definitely part of a healthy breakfast. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what makes a healthy breakfast and also how important breakfast is in the day. You know, when we think about our healthy rules to live by, what I love to talk about is knowing when to eat and how much. So we always will say to shrink and multiply, meaning that we want smaller meals more often throughout the day. We also want to be a daytime eater. So while I want you to eat when you're hungry, I want you to train your body to be better at getting hungry in the morning. And so when you're a daytime eater, that means that your dinner meal should be pretty small. So dinner is small. That way you're preparing to get hungry for the morning. And what's so valuable is eating when you're hungry is more enjoyable and also much better for you. So when you're a daytime eater, that means that you're eating small, frequent meals. It means that you're preparing to have a nice, strong appetite right when you wake up in the morning, and then you're ready to eat. You know, a lot of times we hear about some confusing issues. Right now, it's popular to think of the intermediate fasting, which will tell you that it's healthier on your body to go a long period of time without eating. Partly true in that our bodies were built to go for long periods of time without eating, for sure during our 10 hours of sleep, maybe even 12 hours. But I don't think it's part of a healthy routine to skip breakfast just because you feel like you should. Most research has been very clear that people that eat a breakfast on a regular basis are so breakfast eaters of breakfast, research has been pretty clear helps us be more healthy. One of the things it does is increase fiber in our diet, also more calcium, and less fat, and oftentimes less total calories. So the research that we have seen really shows that people that eat breakfast not only have better nutrition profile, but also have fewer lifestyle diseases. And what do I mean by lifestyle diseases? Well, those that are pretty much geared around issues of overeating. So when you have somebody that skips meals for a long period of time and then eats a large meal or eats whatever they can without much planning, means that they eat more from a fast food scenario. So when we eat fast, we don't have nearly as much planning, and it sets us up for potential problems with what foods we choose. And so what I want to show you today is a great way to make a French toast. It's easy to be able to prepare ahead of time and to really be able to mix and match flavors so that everybody in the family will love what you're doing. So I showed you this beautiful vegan French toast, and again, look how pretty it is. And up here on my other plate is some classic gluten-free French toast. So what I've done here is I've used our homemade bread here at Powerhouse Bakery, and as you know, everything we do is gluten-free. We've also used a really good quality organic flour. So not only is it free of gluten, but of course in this one it's also free of egg, which isn't required by any stretch, but if you ever have somebody that has an egg allergy, this is going to be a great choice. And I really want to make sure that folks know that grains are absolutely valuable. When I mentioned that people that overall typically have breakfast, they do include grains. So whether it be a gluten-free bread or maybe an oats, here I've got a great container of our favorite oats from HEB, and any type of thick cut oats is going to be a great one, but of course the instant oats are fine too. Another grain that I love to recommend is just experimenting. Here's one that's an Italian farro. So whenever you're choosing breakfast foods, one of the most important things is to get whole grains. So again, when I look back on the research, I see that people that eat breakfast are going to eat more grains, and that really allows us to get more fiber. It also allows us to increase our satiety over that morning. So not only are we feeding our brain, and we're building our immune system with all those micronutrients that come from breakfast foods. And so in a minute, I'm going to show you some great micronutrient resources. You saw that I decorated the fruit with, I decorated our French toast with some beautiful fruit. And the recipe that I have coming up, we are going to be using some absolutely great phytochemicals. Here we have some organic pumpkin. So you can buy the canned pumpkin, and looking for an organic one is great, but not obligatory. The other things that are going to be in this particular recipe, so I can really build those micronutrients, are going to be our famous mighty seeds. And so again, whenever we can add more chia, hemp hearts, flax, as well as pumpkin seeds and even walnuts and almonds, that's all going to be a great way to do micronutrients. And when we're building a breakfast, thinking outside the box means that we can start incorporating these, and it doesn't even have to be a sweet boxed cereal. Now you can do something that's in bulk that makes it really fun to pull out of the freezer, pop in the toaster, or you could certainly quick warm up your French toast in a skillet, but not necessarily required. Okay, so let's get going on making our second recipe. The one that I did first, I'm going to show you as well, but let me do the second one with the pumpkin, because that is so interesting. So the first thing we're going to add is some pumpkin puree, like I mentioned, and we're going to use some non-dairy milk. And so in this case, I'm using hemp milk, and you can use any type. If you don't want to use hemp, you could also use oat milk or almond milk or even rice milk. The other thing that's really unique, and again, thinking outside the box, when you take out egg, what do we use in place? Well, in this case, we're using cornstarch. You could also use arrowroot if you wanted to, but the main thing is we have to add a binder to the bread so that we get a wonderful consistency to our French toast. And I'm going to add a little bit of flavor, so some vanilla extract. And I have a great new spice that I've created here at Powerhouse Bakery. This is called our sweet spice. I do a blend of coriander, cardamom, allspice, cloves, and cinnamon. And it just is a wonderful way to add some flavor to any bakery item. I also do something really similar when I add this spice to soups. Like butternut squash soup is wonderful with this sweet spice. So that will be for another day. But I want you to be able to see all these beautiful ingredients. And something else we do at Powerhouse Bakery that I'm so proud of is our vegan bread. So most bread does not have to have egg. If you ever have a sourdough bread, it's egg-free, and even a lot of the basic white breads. In this case, I'm going to slice fairly thick, so it's about a ½ an inch thick, and that's going to be very nice for our French toast, our pumpkin French toast. So here I've got my bread ready to go, and I'm going to start mixing my ingredients, and then I'm going to want to use a fairly shallow bowl. So I'm going to mix in a little bit deeper bowl, and then I'm going to transfer the liquid into this more shallow one, so it's easier to really dredge that, dredge the bread. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is add in our hemp milk, and I'm going to add in my pumpkin. So this recipe I'm going to be giving you, it calls for a ½ cup of pumpkin and 1½ cups of the milk. And here is our cornstarch. Calls for 2 tablespoons, so I'll just measure that out for you. Make sure that it's a flat across measure. There we go. And make sure you use a whisk to blend these ingredients. It'll make it a lot easier to blend these different consistencies. Here is our beautiful sweet spice from Powerhouse Bakery. And my mighty seeds. So if you don't have mighty seeds from Powerhouse Bakery, no problem. You can make your own. This is just a blend of chia, hemp hearts, and flax. If you don't want to add all 3 of those, that's also not obligatory. Just using some of those seeds are always going to augment the nutrition quality of any dish that you're cooking. You know, at Powerhouse Bakery, when I started, my goal was to really help improve the nutrition quality of foods that were typically gluten-free, which you may know is not the healthiest when you use just white rice flour or tapioca starch. Those are very low nutrient flours. So when you want to do gluten-free and you want to make sure they're healthier, finding ways to add in those micronutrients are super important, especially when we're trying to create a healthy breakfast and including in as much of those nutrients as we can. So what you're going to find is when you do pick a nice grainy bread, so I like our Powerhouse Bakery bread, it's going to be nice and dense, but you can buy one off the shelf too. And at home, if you don't have to be gluten-free, you can also use a bread that you can get from the freezer. One of my favorites is called Ezekiel bread, and I bet some of you have heard of that one. So here I'm going to just use a more shallow bowl so I can really get that bread in and get a nice soaking. We don't want it to fall apart, so you kind of have to know your bread well. I want to get just enough moisture on that so that it's going to be really good and soaking into the bread, but not making the bread fall apart. So that looks just about right. I'm going to do a couple more, and I'm going to do 2 items in my skillet. So this is, you can definitely see how different the batter looks when I've added the pumpkin. Anytime we add bright orange, we are adding beta-carotene. We're adding all kinds of micronutrients from those bright colors, so it's a great one. But we can also do a little more traditional style of French toast, like I showed you earlier, and this is going to be very simple. It's going to be still the milk, it's going to be cornstarch, a little bit of lemon, and a little bit of vanilla extract. And see, my bowl isn't quite deep enough, but that's okay. I'm going to make it work so you can see how both are going to work beautifully in the pan. And I kept this piece fairly thick. I just think it's really yummy when you can have a nice thick piece of French toast on your plate. So I'm going to let that absorb. If your bread is a day old, that also is really good. And you can put little fork holes and that'll help to absorb some of the liquid. This one is not a day old. We just made it this morning, but it's a really nice dense bread, and so it pulls in all those liquids really nicely. So there we go. That one is ready also for my pan. So I'm going to pull it out of the milk mixture, and I'm going to get my skillet started. So I've been letting it heat. Really important, we always want to preheat our skillet so that we can get a nice, good browning color on the outside. So I'm going to drop in the butter. I've got a nice sizzle going. It's exactly what we want. So using a non-stick skillet is always a good idea. That just really helps to make sure that you don't have problems with losing that beautiful brown color. But remember that if you do preheat enough, you shouldn't have that sticking happen. So now I'm going to drop my beautiful French toast right in that buttery section. And I'm moving it around just a little bit in the skillet to make sure that that surfactant, which is the melted butter, is really working for me. And it's looking beautiful. Okay, so it's coming along nice. And even if I wanted to add a little bit more cinnamon or some color in this stage, I absolutely can. I'm going to just do a little sprinkle to just add some color and some really pretty texture. The other thing we can do right here in the skillet is add some of our berries. We can let them cook as we're going. And so it makes them soft and delicious, and it's just one more way to add a little bit of sauce, if you will, if you don't want to add in the syrup. So I'm just going to let them kind of sizzle and warm up right beside the French toast. And of course it makes a beautiful skillet to look at too. So there you go. It's cooking along just fine. And what I want you to be able to see is here in my finished French toast, how beautiful and thick and soft this product is. So anytime you're using a gluten-free bread, it does not have to be dry. So make sure that you get one that's going to have a really good texture. And if you have to buy some bread to make your French toast, it's a good idea to buy some from a bakery. It's not Powerhouse, a different one, so that you can get these nice thick pieces. Most bread from the store isn't going to be that thick. So notice how beautiful its texture is, and we've got a good amount of egg right along the side. Of course, it's not really egg, it's our egg replacer, but it really looks and feels just like real French toast. And here is that beautiful one that I did earlier, and it's again the same process. I just cut it a little bit thinner in this one so you can really see how pretty it is on the plate. And if you get a nice base with your syrup or your fruit, you can absolutely have a beautiful plate. It tastes wonderful. All right, so our skillet is sizzling along. I'm going to flip this. You want to try to get most of your cooking done in the first stage instead of turning it too soon, because you want to get that beautiful color on that one side. There you go. Oh, that's looking beautiful. And now my berries are starting to break down a little bit too, which I absolutely love. That's going to make it so beautiful right on the plate. Here we go. Now I'm using for my butter in the pan, I'm using this Earth Balance. This is a wonderful product. You can use any oil if you prefer coconut oil, that works too. But this does give us a nice color and texture. And notice that the pumpkin one does have a little bit of an orange glow. And so now I'm going to start to put those berries right on top. And they're just going to start to break down a little bit and add beautiful color to that dish. I've also done this with orange and orange zest. It's a great flavor addition. You can also add lemon. But whenever you have this fruit on top, then you really don't even miss the syrup if you wanted to take it even lower in sugar. So here we have it, this beautiful pumpkin French toast and our classic vegan French toast. And I'm going to put it right alongside the ones I made earlier. And I want you to see how pretty they are. Of course, you can make French toast with egg. That's still very healthy. But this one is just a nice variety that's going to give us lots of options. You know, like I mentioned, people that eat breakfast oftentimes have less risk of obesity. And one of the things that research has really shown us is that heart disease is very common with people that are overweight. And so one of the best practices is to start your day with calories. And of course, we start our day with hunger and then take on calories so that you're feeding your body and not your fat cells. It's so important to make sure that you develop a routine so that your dinner is small, so that your breakfast is going to be something that you really look forward to, and make sure that you're getting plenty of nutrients. And just as a review, all of these wonderful ingredients are easy to find. Whether you're shopping at H-E-B or you're doing a lot of these foods from home, using different kinds of berries is absolutely perfect. Using different kinds of nuts is absolutely a great idea too. You can use, like I said, the ground pumpkin seeds is a great alternative to the Mighty Seed blend that I do. And so using options makes it so fun to get lots of variety in your cooking. So what I'm going to show you now is a couple of different ways to look at your ingredient profile. So when I'm trying to decide on what would be the best choice for my oats in the morning, I want to make sure that they are thick cut, or at least the ones that are going to be organic. So when you're looking at the ingredient list, what's most important is it does not have any added sugars. Just simple oats is the best way to go. And like I mentioned, when you want to do a mix and match, cooking the oats ahead of time is a great way to do it. You can pull out some oats and then add to your plate beautiful complex carbohydrates. So using fresh fruit and also melons are a great way to add in that complex carbohydrate. Whenever we're thinking about building that good breakfast, we want there to be some protein, some carbohydrates, and even some fats. And so using an Earth Balance butter or using a regular organic butter is absolutely fine. A little bit goes a long way, so that when you're building your plate, you have about 300 calories. And that's going to give you a great starting point for your breakfast. And then when you add on for your snacks and the rest of the day, you never want to get to the point where you're so hungry that you're going to eat anything you can. And instead, you want to be able to plan as much as you can. So thinking about breakfast, you want to make sure that you have things that are easy to prepare, they're easy to package, and really easy to take with you. And I love these little containers that have snap-on lids. It's an easy way to prepare French toast and pop it into your bag for ready to go, or just in your fridge. You can take it right out and you can warm it up in the skillet. So if I already made this French toast and I'm pulling it out of the fridge, the easy thing I can do is pop it right back into the skillet for the next morning, and then I'm ready to go for another breakfast. So don't feel like it's a one-shot deal. You can absolutely have the same breakfast that you've either frozen the French toast or you've left it in your fridge, and now you can just pop it in the skillet to reheat. Making a nice topping with your syrup is a way to go too. So if I have a little bit of my leftover fruit, I'm going to add a little bit of syrup to the fruit, and that way I can use very little of the syrup and a little more of the fruit. That's always a great way to keep the macros of sugar down and the complex carbohydrates up. So as this is heating up in my skillet, I'm going to add in the mixture of the syrup and the berries, and of course this is when I'm pulling it out of the fridge and wanting to rewarm the next day. So then I can really control how much of the sweetener I'm including. Even though we've got a really good maple syrup that is organic, just like when we pick the oats have no sugars at all. This is all sugar. So we're making a big leap by adding the sweetness to our breakfast. And we want to just make sure that it's going to be in small quantities. Complex carbohydrates, simple sugars, still valuable in your breakfast. We just really want to watch our portion. So again, that's why I'm mixing it in with the fruit, and I'm going to let it warm up right on top of the French toast. That way, when I'm ready to serve it to my family, it's got just the right amount of syrup, and it makes a fabulous French toast. Now, I'm going to let that heat on medium-low. So when I cook the French toast, it's on medium-high, but when I'm warming it up medium-low, I'm going to put the lid on it so it'll just slowly warm up in there. Since everything's already cooked and I've got that nice crispy edge on the outside, what we're doing here is just trying to slowly let it warm up all the way through the French toast. And so this makes a great option. So in closing, whether you're choosing oats or you're choosing a bread that you want to make a French toast with, whether you want to use eggs or think outside the box and make it egg-free, it's really important to eat breakfast and make sure that you have a routine, that you allow your body to get hungry and you have some great complex carbohydrates to go with, and even adding in a little bit of protein is a great way to go. Make sure you've got lots of bright colors, whether it's coming from our beautiful pumpkin puree or some beautiful fresh berries. The nice thing is we're always thinking about how do we make our best meals go from good to great by really using some of those beautiful anti-cancer and super autoimmune foods. So thanks so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.